Welcome to the deep dive. We're going meta today,
Oh,
diving into meta philosophy,
a
the
philosophy.
philosophy of philosophy. It's like we're holding up a mirror
Right.
to the whole field and asking,
Yeah.
what are you all about?
What are you doing?
And our guides for this deep dive
Okay.
are pasted text and the nature of philosophical investigation.
Sounds good.
And one question that's been bugging thinkers for ages
Mhm.
is this: can philosophy actually make progress
Okay.
like science does with its,
Yeah.
discoveries and stuff?
Right.
Or is it just going in circles?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really gets to the heart of what philosophy is,
Yeah.
what it's trying to achieve.
For sure.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good place to start.
Okay.
What exactly is philosophy?
Yeah.
According to
Mhm.
our sources here,
Okay.
they describe it as this search for fundamental truths
Okay.
about big stuff like existence,
Mm-hmm.
knowledge, right and wrong.
Yep.
But it uses reason and thinking things through
Yeah.
more than like, say, doing experiments
Okay.
like a scientist would.
Right. If you imagine a scientist studying a tree,
Uh-huh.
they might be measuring its growth, analyzing its cells.
Yeah.
A philosopher might look at that same tree and ask,
All right.
what does it even mean for something to be alive? What's the essence of life itself?
Yeah.
You see,
Keep.
philosophy grapples with these sometimes abstract concepts
Yeah.
that science can't always tackle.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, because it's like,
Uh-huh.
science is focused on the how,
Yeah.
and philosophy is wrestling with the why.
That's a great way to put it.
So how have different thinkers throughout history
Yeah.
approached this whole meta-philosophy thing?
Well, our sources take us on a little tour
Okay.
through philosophy's Hall of Fame,
Nice.
starting with Socrates,
Oh, yeah.
as you know,
All about questioning everything.
the OG of philosophical nagging.
Right. But wasn't he less about finding concrete answers?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
more about just poking holes in everyone else's ideas.
Exactly.
And that's incredibly relevant to metaphilosophy itself.
Okay.
It's about constantly challenging assumptions,
Mhm.
examining the foundations of our beliefs.
Right.
Socrates was a master of that.
He was.
Think about it. How often do we just accept things at face value
Oh, all the time.
without really questioning why we believe them?
Good point. I know I'm guilty of that sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so after Socrates,
Yeah.
who's next on our philosophical road trip?
Well, then we meet Plato,
Okay.
who was obsessed with finding perfect, unchanging truth,
Right.
what he called forms.
Forms.
Imagine like the perfect concept of a chair existing out there in some realm of pure ideas,
Whoa.
even more real than any physical chair you could ever sit on.
Okay, I'll admit,
Yeah.
that one's a bit hard to wrap my head around.
It is. It is.
Are these forms something we can actually know about?
Yeah.
Or are they just like nice ideas? That's a debate that's raged on for centuries.
Really?
Are these forms just mental constructs?
Right.
Or do they point to a deeper, more fundamental reality? That's the kind of question that keeps philosophers up at night.
I can see why.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the questioner, Socrates,
Right.
and the idealist, Plato.
Mm-hmm.
Who else shapes the metaphilosophical landscape?
Next up is Aristotle,
Aristotle. Okay.
who, unlike Plato, wanted to bring philosophy down to earth a bit.
Okay.
He tried to make it more systematic,
Huh?
organizing knowledge into categories,
Right.
defining terms clearly,
Yeah.
kind of like he was creating the ultimate philosophical library.
Like organizing it.
His influence on Western thought is massive, even today.
So he was like the Marie Kondo of philosophy.
Yeah.
Tidying up all the messy ideas.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah.
Now, I know we can't cover every philosopher in detail.
Right.
But what about some of the big names from the modern era?
Well, our sources give us a glimpse into a few key figures who shook things up. We have Descartes, famous for his radical doubt. He tried to strip away all assumptions,
Okay.
start from scratch,
Right.
asking, what can I know for certain?
Interesting.
Then there's Hume, a Scottish philosopher,
Okay.
super skeptical about our ability to know much of anything for sure.
Really?
And Kant,
Kant. Okay.
trying to find some middle ground between those extremes,
Right.
arguing that we can have knowledge,
Yeah.
but it's shaped by the structure of our minds.
Wow. Okay, so from questioning everything
Yeah.
to doubting everything to trying to bridge the gap,
Right.
it seems like metaphilosophy has always been about wrestling.
Yeah.
with the very foundations of knowledge itself.
Exactly. And these historical debates feed directly into
Yeah.
the core arguments within metaphilosophy. It's like they set the stage for the big philosophical battles to come.
Okay, bring on the battles.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest, juiciest debates within metaphilosophy itself?
Well, our sources highlight a few key clashes
Okay.
that have kept philosophers arguing for centuries.
Ooh, really?
One of the most famous is rationalism versus empiricism.
I've heard of those terms before,
Okay.
but I'm a little fuzzy on the details.
Sure.
Can you break it down for me?
Yeah.
And for our listener,
Think of it like this.
right?
You're trying to figure out if the sun is the center of our solar system.
Okay.
A rationalist might say,
Yeah.
I can figure that out just by thinking about it logically, using reason alone.
Okay.
But an empiricist would say, hold on, you need observations, data, telescopes.
Right.
You need to rely on your senses to know for sure.
So it's like a battle between
Yeah.
team reason and team experience.
Exactly. And it's not just about astronomy, right?
Right.
This debate affects how we think about knowledge in general.
Okay.
Can we learn about the world just by thinking about it? Or do we need to go out and experience it directly? This goes all the way back to Plato and Aristotle,
Oh, wow.
with Plato leaning towards rationalism
Uh-huh.
and Aristotle pushing for empirical observation.
I can see how that debate would have huge EE implications
Oh, yeah.
for how we approach,
Mhm.
well, pretty much everything.
Pretty much.
Okay, so what's another big metaphilosophy brawl?
Another key area of debate is the role of conceptual analysis in philosophy.
Okay.
This is about breaking down big, complex ideas like justice or truth
Yeah.
into smaller, more manageable parts.
Okay.
It's like taking apart a clock
Right.
to figure out how it works.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
If you're going to talk about justice,
right.
you better be clear on what you even mean by that word.
Exactly. Conceptual analysis is all about clarity and precision.
Okay.
It's about avoiding sloppy thinking
Right.
and making sure we're all on the same page
Yeah.
when we use these big, important words.
So some philosophers love dissecting concepts.
Yes.
But our source also mentioned something called phenomenology
Yeah.
as a contrast.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Phenomenology is more about directly experiencing things to understand them.
Interesting.
Imagine trying to describe the taste of chocolate
Mm-hmm.
to someone who's never had it.
Okay.
You can list out the chemical compounds, talk about sweetness and bitterness,
Yeah.
but until they actually taste it,
Yeah.
they're missing something crucial. Phenomenology emphasizes that lived experience.
So it's less about analyzing words
Uh-huh.
and more about actually living and feeling things to understand them.
Right. It's about paying attention to the richness of our subjective experience.
Okay.
Which some philosophers argue gets lost in all the abstract theorizing.
I can see how that would appeal to some thinkers.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got rationalism versus empiricism.
Uh-huh.
We've got conceptual analysis versus experiencing things.
Right.
What else is on the metaphilosophy battleground?
Well, a big one is naturalism versus anti-naturalism.
Okay.
It's basically asking, should philosophy be more like science?
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
So are they teammates or are they rivals?
That's the debate.
Okay.
Naturalists say,
Yeah.
hey, let's be empirical. Let's use evidence and observation like the scientists do.
Uh-huh.
But the anti-naturalists push back, saying,
Yeah.
hold on, philosophy deals with questions about meaning, values, stuff that science can't measure in a lab.
Okay.
They see philosophy as having its own distinct domain,
Uh-huh.
separate from the realm of science.
So are they fighting for territory?
Yeah.
Or are they just trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
how they fit into the bigger picture of knowledge?
It's a bit of both, really.
Okay.
This debate gets to the heart of what philosophy is for and what its methods should be.
Interesting.
It's about defining the boundaries and the possibilities of the whole field.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
We've defined metaphilosophy,
Mm-hmm.
met some of the big names,
Yeah.
and even got a taste of those philosophical cage matches.
Right.
But all this thinking has got me wondering, what's the point of it all?
Yeah.
Like, does all this philosophical pondering actually lead anywhere?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's one that we'll delve into deeper in the next part of our deep dive.
Ooh, a cliffhanger.
Stay tuned.
All right, we'll be back. Welcome back to our deep dive
Yes.
into metaphilosophy.
Metaphilosophy.
Last time we wrestled with the very definition of philosophy.
We did.
Took a whirlwind tour
Yeah.
through its history
That's right.
And we even got a front row seat
We did.
to some of the biggest debates within the field.
A big philosophical cage match.
Those cage matches, yeah.
Yes.
And we left you with a real head scratcher,
A cliffhanger.
a cliffhanger.
Yes.
Does philosophy actually make progress?
That's the question.
Yeah.
It sparked endless debate among philosophers throughout history.
I'm still kind of reeling from
Yeah.
all those philosophical cage matches we talked about.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, the question of progress is a big one.
It is.
If philosophy is all about thinking and debating,
Yeah.
does it ever actually get anywhere?
You know, even asking that question is a sign of progress in itself.
Really?
It shows that we're not just accepting philosophy blindly.
Okay.
We're taking a step back
Right.
and thinking critically about how it works.
So we're not just doing philosophy.
Right.
We're thinking about how we do philosophy.
Exactly.
That's meta.
That's meta. And that kind of self-awareness,
Yeah.
that metacognitive reflection,
Uh-huh.
is valuable in any field, really.
Okay.
It helps us refine our methods
Right.
and understand the limitations of our own thinking.
Okay, so questioning how philosophy works is a good thing,
Yes.
but that still doesn't tell us if it actually makes progress.
Right.
What are some of the arguments for and against
Okay.
the idea that philosophy moves forward?
Well, one argument in favor of progress is that philosophy helps us refine our understanding of key concepts. Okay.
Think of it like we're polishing a rough stone,
Okay.
slowly revealing its hidden beauty over time.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
But which concepts are we polishing?
Concepts like justice, truth, freedom.
Those are big ones.
These are fundamental to how we understand ourselves and the world
Okay.
through philosophical inquiry.
Yeah.
We can chip away at the rough edges of these concepts,
Right.
developing more nuanced and sophisticated understandings.
Okay. I can see that.
Yeah.
But doesn't that imply that we're never really reaching a final definitive answer? It's like the goalposts are always moving.
That's true, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
The pursuit of these big concepts, the ongoing dialogue and debate,
Yeah.
that's part of what makes philosophy so dynamic
Right.
and intellectually stimulating.
Okay.
It's not about reaching a fixed endpoint,
Yeah.
but about the journey of exploration.
So it's more about the process of inquiry
Yes.
than about arriving at some ultimate truth. Exactly. And, you know, the very questions we're asking are evolving as our world changes.
That's true.
Our sources mention how contemporary metaphilosophy
Right.
is grappling with how technology, especially AI,
Right.
is changing the way we think.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Philosophers 100 years ago couldn't have predicted the rise of artificial intelligence
Right.
and its implications for our understanding of knowledge
Exactly.
and consciousness.
And this evolution of questions
Yeah.
shows that philosophy is adapting and responding to new challenges.
Right.
It's not stuck in the past,
Okay.
rehashing the same old debates.
Yeah.
It's engaging with the world as it is now,
Right.
grappling with the most pressing issues of our time.
Okay, so we've talked about refining concepts
Yeah.
and evolving questions as signs of progress. But what about solving problems?
Okay.
I mean, doesn't philosophy aim to provide answers
Yeah.
to those big questions about life, the universe, and everything?
That's true. Many of the questions that philosophy tackles are enduring.
Yeah.
They keep coming back generation after generation.
Right.
But even if we don't arrive at definitive solutions, the process of wrestling with these questions is valuable in itself.
It's like the mental workout
Yeah.
strengthens our thinking muscles.
Yeah.
Even if we don't win every match.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Philosophical inquiry helps us to think more critically,
Okay.
examine our assumptions,
Yeah.
and develop more nuanced perspectives. And
Yeah.
those skills are valuable,
Yeah.
regardless of whether we come up with a clear-cut answer
Yeah.
to every philosophical puzzle.
But some people might argue that that's just mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
That it doesn't really change anything in the real world.
Right.
I might say, okay, you've thought about justice, but what good does that do for actual injustice
Yeah.
happening out there?
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
And it's one that philosophers have grappled with for a long time.
Okay.
But I think the sources we're looking at offer a counter-argument.
Okay.
They suggest that philosophy can have a practical impact,
Wow.
influencing other fields like law, ethics, and even politics.
So it's not just about thinking in an ivory tower.
Right.
Philosophy can actually make a difference in the world.
Absolutely.
Wow, okay.
The ideas we explore in philosophy
Yeah.
can shape how we understand justice,
Right.
how we make ethical decisions,
Right.
and how we organize our societies.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure.
Something concrete.
Take the concept of human rights, for instance.
Okay.
This idea is deeply rooted in philosophical thinking
Okay.
about human dignity, equality, and freedom.
Right.
These ideas, debated and refined over centuries by philosophers,
Yeah.
have had a profound impact on legal systems
Oh, wow.
and social movements around the world.
Wow. Okay, that's a great example.
Yeah.
So even if philosophy doesn't hand us all the answers on a silver platter,
Right.
it can help us ask better questions
Yeah.
and develop frameworks for addressing real-world problems.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how progress in philosophy
Yeah.
might look different from progress in,
Yeah.
say, science or technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always about concrete discoveries or definitive answers.
Right. It's not about finding the answer,
Okay.
but about developing a deeper, more nuanced understanding
Yeah.
of the questions themselves.
Right.
And honestly, that's often more valuable than a simple black and white answer.
So we've explored different ways of thinking about progress in philosophy.
We have.
We've considered the perspectives of different philosophical traditions
Yes.
and examined how philosophy can ripple out and influence other fields.
Exactly.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
But I think there's one more crucial aspect of philosophical progress
Okay.
that we need to discuss.
All right.
The role of disagreement.
Disagreement.
Yeah. But isn't that a sign
Yeah.
that philosophy isn't making progress?
Okay.
I mean, if philosophers can't agree on anything,
Yeah.
how can we say the field is moving forward?
That's a common misconception.
Really?
In fact, I'd argue that disagreement is essential to philosophical progress.
Wait, really? How
Yeah.
can that be?
Yeah.
Isn't agreement a sign that we're getting closer to the truth?
Think of it this way.
Okay.
Disagreement forces us to sharpen our arguments,
Ah,
examine our assumptions,
right.
and consider alternative perspectives.
Like a mental sparring match.
Yeah,
Pushing each other to think more deeply.
exactly.
And through that process of debate and challenge,
Mm-hmm.
we refine our understanding
Right.
and develop more nuanced and sophisticated positions.
Mhm.
So instead of seeing disagreement as a roadblock,
Yeah.
we should see it as a catalyst for growth.
Yes.
Like it's the friction that makes the engine run.
Precisely. Disagreement is not a sign of failure,
Oh.
but an engine of progress.
Wow.
It's what keeps philosophy dynamic. Yeah.
And ensures that we're constantly questioning
Uh-huh.
and refining our understanding.
That's a powerful way to think about it.
Yeah.
So even those heated philosophical debates
Yeah.
that seem to go on forever,
Right.
they're actually contributing to the evolution of the field.
Absolutely.
Wow.
They're forcing us to think more deeply,
Mm-hmm.
challenge our assumptions,
Yeah.
and develop more robust arguments.
Okay. I'm starting to come around to this idea,
Okay.
but I still have one nagging question.
All right.
If philosophy is all about refining our understanding,
Yeah.
doesn't that suggest that we're never really reaching the truth?
Okay.
Like we're on an endless quest,
Mhm.
but we never actually arrive at the destination?
That's a deep question.
It is.
And it gets to the heart of what we mean by truth in philosophy, which,
Mhm.
as you might expect, is another big debate.
Of course it is.
Philosophers love to debate everything.
They do.
So what is truth in philosophy?
Yeah, what is it? Well, there's no single answer.
Okay.
Philosophers have been wrestling with that question for centuries.
Okay, no easy answers.
No.
But can you give me a quick overview
Super.
of some of the main views?
Yeah.
Like, what are the contenders in this philosophical battle royale over truth?
Okay. Some philosophers, called corresponding spirists,
Okay.
believe that truth is about how well our beliefs match up with reality.
Okay.
So a statement is true
Yeah.
if it accurately reflects the way things are in the world.
Okay, that one seems pretty straightforward. Like
Yeah.
the sky is blue is true
Right.
because it corresponds to what we actually see.
Right. But then there are coherence theorists
Okay.
who argue that truth is about how well our beliefs fit together.
Okay.
So a statement is true
Yeah.
if it's consistent with our other beliefs
Right.
and doesn't contradict anything else we hold to be true.
So it's more about the internal consistency of our belief system.
Yeah.
Like making sure all the pieces fit together logically.
Exactly. And then there are pragmatist philosophers
Sure.
who believe that truth is about what works.
Works. Okay.
So a belief is true
Mm-hmm.
if it's useful, if it helps us navigate the world and achieve our goals.
So for them, truth is less about abstract correspondence
Yeah.
and more about practical effectiveness.
Exactly. And those are just a few of the main contenders
Yeah.
in the philosophical debate over truth.
Right.
There are many other theories out there,
I bet.
each with its own strengths and weaknesses.
Wow. So even the concept of truth is up for debate in philosophy.
Absolutely. And that's part of what makes philosophy so challenging and so rewarding.
Yeah.
It forces us to think critically
Right.
about our most fundamental assumptions,
Yeah.
even those we take for granted.
Okay, so we may not have a single definition of truth in philosophy,
Right.
but does that mean the search for truth is pointless?
Hmm.
If we're always refining and never arriving,
Yeah.
are we just spinning our wheels?
Not at all. I think the very act of seeking truth.
Of questioning, of refining our understanding, that's a valuable process in itself,
Okay.
even if we never arrive at a final absolute answer.
It's like the journey is just as important as the destination.
Yeah.
Maybe even more so,
Yeah,
because along the way we're learning, growing,
Mhm.
and becoming better thinkers.
exactly.
Yeah.
And along that journey, we gain wisdom,
Okay.
develop our critical thinking skills,
Right.
and deepen our understanding of the world and ourselves.
I think that's a great point to end on
Okay.
for this part of our deep dive.
Right.
We've explored different ways of thinking about progress in philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
wrestled with the concept of truth,
Yes.
and even learned to appreciate the value of disagreement.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
but there's still more to explore.
Yeah.
Join us for the final part of our deep dive into metaphilosophy,
Oh.
where we'll tackle the ultimate question. What is the point of it all?
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're in the final stretch now.
Of our exploration into metaphilosophy.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground so far,
We have.
from defining philosophy
Hmm?
to debating its progress
Okay.
and grappling with the concept of truth itself.
Right. Big questions.
But now we're at the summit,
Right.
ready to tackle the ultimate question,
Okay. Shoot.
the big one,
Mm-hmm.
the existential question
Yeah.
that every philosophy student inevitably faces.
Everyone. Yeah.
What's the pointee of all this philosophical pondering?
Right.
Why should any of this matter
Yeah.
to our listener out there in the real world?
Good question.
Is this all just a mental exercise for academics?
Right.
Or does it have actual value in our everyday lives?
That's the heart of the matter, isn't it?
It is.
And it's a question I've certainly asked myself
Ah,
many times over the years.
me too.
Yeah.
I mean, I love a good philosophical debate
Great.
as much as the next person.
Yeah.
But sometimes I wonder,
Mm-hmm.
does all this head-scratching actually lead anywhere?
Well, I think our sources offer some pretty compelling answers.
Okay, good.
They point to some key benefits of philosophical inquiry that go way beyond the classroom. Developing critical thinking skills,
Okay.
cultivating wisdom and ethical reasoning,
Right?
and even fostering a sense of wonder
Okay.
and intellectual humility.
Okay, those sound like some pretty valuable takeaways.
Yeah.
So let's unpack those a bit.
All right.
First up, critical thinking.
Okay.
How does philosophy help us become sharper thinkers?
Philosophy is like mental boot camp for your brain.
Whoa.
It trains us to question assumptions,
Right.
analyze arguments, spot fallacies in reasoning.
Good.
It's not about blindly accepting what you're told,
Yeah.
but about learning to think for yourself
Right.
and evaluate information critically.
So it's like philosophy gives us a BS detector
Right.
for the information overload we face every day.
Exactly. In today's world where we're bombarded with news, opinions, and social media posts,
So true.
critical thinking skills are more essential than ever.
They are.
You need to be able to sift through all the noise,
Right.
figure out what's reliable,
Mm-hmm.
what's biased,
Yeah.
what's just plain wrong.
It's like having a mental toolkit
Yeah.
for navigating the complexities of the world.
And the best part is,
What's that?
these critical thinking skills are transferable
Okay.
to any field or profession,
Right.
whether you're a scientist,
Uh-huh.
a lawyer,
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, an artist.
Interesting.
The ability to think clearly and critically will
Okay.
always be an asset.
So critical thinking is a big win for philosophy.
It is.
What about wisdom and ethical reasoning?
Okay.
How does philosophy help us become more ethical
Right.
and make better choices?
You know, philosophy wrestles with the big questions
Yeah.
about the good life,
Mm-hmm.
morality and justice,
Right.
but what it means to live a meaningful life
Deep stuff.
by engaging with these questions. Yeah.
we develop our ethical compass,
Okay.
our sense of right and wrong.
I see.
It helps us to make choices
Yeah.
that aren't just self-serving,
Right?
but that take into account the well-being of others
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of world we want to live in.
So it's not just about following the rules,
Right.
but about developing a deeper understanding of what
Yeah.
it means to be a good person
Yeah,
and a responsible citizen.
exactly.
Oh yeah, I'm sold.
Yeah.
Philosophy helps us think critically,
Yes.
makes us more ethical,
Mm,
and potentially even saves the world.
potentially, yeah.
But what about that last benefit you mentioned?
Okay.
Wonder and intellectual humility.
Right.
Those sound a bit more abstract.
They are, in a way,
Okay.
but I think they're incredibly important.
Right.
You see, philosophy reminds us
Yeah.
that we don't have all the answers,
Right.
that our understanding of the world is always incomplete,
Okay.
and that there's always more to learn.
So it's like an antidote to arrogance and dogma. Yes.
It keeps us curious and open to new ideas.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
encourages us to question our own biases,
Yeah.
to embrace uncertainty,
Right.
and to approach the world with a sense of awe and
Right.
humility.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
like philosophy helps us become lifelong learners.
Yes.
Always open to new perspectives and discoveries.
And that intellectual humility,
Right.
that willingness to admit what you don't know
Uh-huh.
and to keep searching for deeper understanding, that's
Wow.
what keeps the mind vibrant and alive.
So true.
It's essential for personal growth,
Okay.
for fostering meaningful relationships,
Yeah.
and for navigating a world that's constantly changing.
Well, I think we made a pretty strong case
I think so.
for the value of philosophy.
We did our best.
It's not just an abstract pursuit for academics.
Right.
It's about developing the skills and the mindset
Yeah.
to live a more thoughtful,
Mm-hmm.
ethical, and fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
And I think the biggest takeaway from our deep dive
Mhm.
into metaphilosophy is this:
Yeah.
cultivate a philosophical mindset.
A philosophical mindset, right?
What does that look like in practice?
It's about approaching the world with a sense of curiosity,
Okay.
critical thinking, and a willingness to question assumptions.
Yeah.
Don't just accept things at face value.
Right.
Dig deeper, ask why.
Right.
Be open to the possibility that you might be wrong.
It's like carrying that philosophical spirit with you
Yeah.
wherever you go and whatever you do.
Exactly.
Whether you're reading a news article,
Mm-hmm.
having a conversation with a friend,
Right.
or simply observing the world around you.
Yeah.
Try to engage with it thoughtfully, critically,
Mhm.
and with a sense of wonder.
Right. And who knows?
Yeah.
You might even stumble upon your own philosophical questions, the kind that keep you thinking long after the conversation is over.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And that's where the real adventure begins.
That's where it starts.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into metaphilosophy.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us on this journey of intellectual exploration.
It's been a pleasure.
It has.
And remember, keep questioning,
Yes.
keep exploring, and keep philosophizing.
Until next time.
See you then.